Hi, I'm Brittany Riley and you're in the kitchen with Britt. I'm here at Home Appliance in Avon and we are going to be making a delicious seared scallop with a rosé cream sauce. So we are using some Olivelli products from the Gourmet Olive in Chesterland and they're amazing. We have some caramelized garlic olive oil, a rosé vinegar, and then we also are going to be using a rosemary sea salt to season our cream sauce. So scallops are a little bit tricky, but we are going to kind of demystify some of those tips and tricks just to make sure that you get a really great sear on them and don't overcook them because that's a common issue. So we are gonna get this pasta water boiling and come right back. Okay, so scallops. First things first, you definitely want to go to a good seafood market, or if you have like a really great grocery store around here, we have a wonderful one that has a great seafood department. And you want to get fresh sea scallops. You don't want to be buying frozen. For certain dishes, that's totally fine. But when you're searing and you buy something frozen, it already has a certain amount of water content. And so when you're trying to get, a little bit of a golden color onto it, you're already battling with all that excess moisture. So make sure you get fresh scallops, and really you don't want to get it more than the day of that you're gonna be cooking it. The day before is okay, but you'd even wanna keep it on ice in the refrigerator, so you may as well just go out that day and buy them. They are a little bit expensive when they're fresh, but if you were going out to a restaurant, it would be a lot more, so. All right, a couple different things when you get them. They have what is called a foot. And if you've never used them before, you really will be able to kind of look around and see there is it's basically where the muscle attaches to the shell. And you wanna remove that because it is that muscle that's working to open and close the shell. It's really tough. We know scallops as being like one of the most tender and rich bites of seafood. This isn't really that, so you wanna remove that. So get rid of the foot on each of them. And then what you're gonna wanna do, every now and then it'll already be gone, or part of it'll be gone just from the processing. So that one's good. Then you're gonna wanna set it onto a paper towel. So the reason that we get it on the paper towel is like how we talked about the moisture with the frozen one. Even the fresh ones, we wanna really eliminate the moisture. That's just gonna get in the way of us getting a good golden color on these. If we're battling with moisture, our oil isn't going to caramelize our seafood. So we just wanna pat that dry. Once you have it nice and dry, not so much that it's like sticking to the paper towel, but just nice and dry, we're going to season these with salt and pepper on both sides. Not crazy, but just a little bit, because the seasoning will then lock into your seafood as it's being caramelized. So we're gonna use some of this rosemary sea salt and a little fresh ground pepper after I wash my hands. Okay, so we're gonna heat up our caramelized garlic olive oil here to cook our scallops in. One thing is you want to at least have your pasta already in the water basically when you start to heat up your pan to sear, just so that way as you're building your cream sauce, you're straining your pasta and it's all ready to go together at the same time. I know it's so confusing sometimes when you read recipes and you start to do something and you're like, but wait, I've gotten to this step and I haven't even done this yet. And so it's hard to balance sometimes. I always read the directions before I start a recipe. That way I can kind of go through the list and make it make sense for me in my own kitchen and everything. But like I said, it can be really tricky. So with this one, I would say for sure, have your pasta cooking. Like I said, the bucatini is what we're using. You can use any kind of pasta. Bucatini is kind of fun, especially if it's like a celebration dinner. It's a specialty pasta that's usually imported from Italy. And it's basically like a thicker spaghetti that actually has a hole all the way through it. So especially with something like a cream sauce, it's taking the sauce all throughout the pasta, so it just kind of enhances all the flavors. It's pretty amazing. All right, so we wanna make sure that our pan is not piping hot, but all the way warmed up. I'm just basically at a medium to medium high temperature. A good way to tell if your oil is hot is that it starts to spread all over the pan. It's much more viscous, it starts to kind of shimmer. You can also do a little trick where you dip your fingertips into some water and kind of just plop it in there and basically it'll start to pip, pop, and hiss if the oil is hot. So we don't want this to be so crazy that it burns our scallops, but we want to make sure, like I said, we're getting some color on them. So we'll start to lay them in there. That sound is the perfect indication. Another thing that I like to have ready when I'm going to be building a sauce in the same pan is just a plate and some foil, because we're going to be removing these scallops and then making the sauce. So we want to just kind of tent it with foil to keep them nice and warm. So here's the tough part. Just like with a good steak, you basically want to leave these alone. We're going to go based on the size. They're going to take probably about a minute to a minute and a half on both sides. You don't want to go any further than that. It might not look completely cooked, but you want to pull it because it's going to continue to cook. And with seafood, if we overcook it, basically we're just drawing out more moisture through that high heat and cooking process, and it's just going to be a little bit chewy, very dry. We want it to remain flaky, so leaving a little bit of that extra moisture to continue to cook after it comes out of this hot pan is perfect. So our pasta is getting real close here. I like to use a pasta rock in my boiling water for pasta if you've never used it. Basically, it's just like a rock of salt. And what you can do is you put it into the water, turn it up, get it boiling. As soon as it's done, or as soon as it comes to a boil and you're ready to put your pasta in, you remove that rock and then add your pasta, and it's like the perfect amount of salt seasoning for your water. It's amazing. We're gonna go ahead and turn these, and you're allowed to check it out before you decide. If you want a little more color, go for it. I think that's perfect. So we'll just turn these over, and then I am going to pause for a second and bring the camera over so you can get a little closer view on the seared. Okay, so that brings us to right about a minute on each side. When you go to grab these, they should be pretty tender, but also much more firm than they were when you laid them in. So let's check out the bottom. It's looking lovely. I think I'm gonna give these guys another 30 seconds and they will be perfect. Okay, so between 4 and 5 minutes total in the pan, I'm gonna just tent some foil on this. Tenting foil, if you're not sure, is basically wrapping on some sides but leaving a little open. You don't want to ruin that caramelization, and if we just closed it up tightly, the steam would end up kind of softening that nice crust that we just got. Now in the pan, what's left behind is obviously a little oil, also all these browned bits of scallop, which have a lot of flavor. It's called the fond. And what we're gonna do is we are going to be using, it's gonna sizzle, our rosé vinegar. And this is called deglazing. So you want to give it a nice stir. I usually grab up like a non-stick kind of silicone spatula to be able to pull up all those browned bits, and that'll become a part of the flavor of our sauce. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna let this reduce a little bit, which means cook down. You know, the heat is still up at medium to medium high, so it won't take very long. Other cream sauces, we could use a white wine, a red wine, things like that. With scallops, I would use either a white or a rosé wine. In this case, we're getting that kind of sharpness from the vinegar, and then we're gonna round it out with some cream just to make a beautifully balanced flavor. We can go ahead and get all of our seasonings ready. I have some diced tomatoes that we'll add in, a little fresh herb on the top, and our pasta is just about ready to strain, which is perfect timing, because we will toss it right into the pan once our sauce is done. Now this is already reduced by about half, so that's really quick. We'll go ahead and add our cream and our seasonings. And once that cream is in, we are not far from being done. Sprinkle a little of that rosemary sea salt. some fresh cracked red pepper, no, just regular black pepper, sorry. We're gonna give this a stir. I'm gonna go strain our pasta and then we're ready to bring this dish together. Okay, so we're gonna add in just some diced tomatoes. Get some of our pasta in there. Splash a little on me, you know, all that good stuff. All right, and then this is perfect. You don't need to dirty another dish. You can get all that good sauce sopped up into your pasta, and we're ready to go plate it. All right, we are ready to plate. So we will take our pasta and just kind of twist it onto the plate. Add our scallops. And you can finish with any kind of a fresh herb, not any, but you know, whether it's basil or thyme or some chives. I had some basil on hand, so we'll just sprinkle a little basil over the top. And it's ready to serve. Enjoy.